Welcome to the Premiership Pie, where I give out every AFL contender's chances of winning the Premiership. And even though the Gold Coast Essendon game hasn't happened yet, I think it's fair to say that Gold Coast are going to win that game. Now, if they don't, if the Bombers get over the line, well, it's fair to say that the place with the Bulldogs is going to swap. But for now, I think there's a good 99% chance that the Suns get over the line, so they'll be included in the pie. The Dogs will not. So 8 teams to talk about, and I want to make this as sort of short, sharp, and succinct as possible because I don't really want to waffle too much in this video. So from the least amount of pie to the most amount of pie, here is your pre-finals Premiership pie. And we start with the Suns because just historically, I don't think they're going to get it done without having that finals experience. And I think next year for the Suns is actually going to be way more interesting than this year because it's kind of like, yes, the maiden final series is going to be awesome. Great. We'd love to see that. The other interesting thing for Gold Coast is going to be, are they going to take a step back to accelerate forward circa Freo, or is this going to be the way they jump from finals to a premiership? I'm not sure. But what we are judging this on is their ability to win the flag, and I'm sorry, I just don't see it. Also slotting in the Hawks at 1%, which hurts, because a 10-point loss shouldn't have that detrimental an effect, and yet it has. Winning your third, losing your eighth. Well, here we are. Now, my reaction to the Hawks game is live, so you can check that out if you haven't already. It was a weird time. It really is. The downside, if there is a downside of doing those instant reviews, is it's kind of like, this is just what I'm feeling. It is more feeling than analytical based most of the time. Some people vibe with that, some people don't, but no one's won the flag from 8th. I know that there is a first for everything, but it hasn't happened yet. The fact that the Hawks are going to go to a stadium that they suck playing at. I like playing the Giants as a Hawthorn fan. They're not a team that I'm massively scared of, although that could absolutely change if they turn it on, of course. But I think Hawthorn's best could still be better than the Giants' best on a particular day. But overall, you're going to be rolling from there into either Collingwood or Geelong, which, again, you could win that. You then go to probably Adelaide or Brisbane for a prelim. Not really sure how I feel about those. Yes, combined against those two teams, the Hawks have done really well in the last month, but neither of them were a W. And then you probably have got to play Geelong or Collingwood, you'd think, in the grand final. So that, to me, seems a hill just a little bit too steep for this Hawks group, and fingers crossed that we can land another midfielder in this offseason. Going to the Giants, and if I owe GWS anything, it's probably an apology, because I feel like last year a few people gave me a bit of stick, rightly so at the time maybe, but maybe aged a little bit better for me, although that Brisbane comeback was so incredible. It's kind of, you're towing the line, I suppose. It's like, was the hate deserved, was it not, whatever. But I feel like they were my most underappreciated team going into last year's final series. I have a feeling that might be the case again this year. I weirdly enough think that, again, I think GWS have got a better chance of beating Collingwood or Geelong than they do the Hawks. I don't know if that's naivete or whatever it may be, but they match up so well against the Cats, as we know, beating them twice this year. They smacked the Pies in opening round, and it's not a case of, they lost to the Hawks, the win down in Tassie, all of those kinds of things. I think it's just they do match up reasonably well. It's going to be really interesting if Gunston tries to tag Sam Taylor or anything like that. But again, with the statistical unlikeliness of a team winning it from outside the top 4, you couple that with the fact that I just think the Giants are reliant too much on individualism rather than a full team structure, means they end up towards the bottom as well. The Pies, for me, are kind of the epitome of too noisy right now because, yes, their form against the Crows was better. They got over the line against the Ds, yet my ability to trust them at the moment is not necessarily that high in the slightest. They are the lowest of the top 4 teams that I have faith in. Does that mean that I think that they're 100% guaranteed to lose in the qualifying final against Geelong? No, I'm not saying that in the slightest. I think it's a case of a lot needs to go right now. Fortunately for the Pies, when you compare it to some other teams, everything that could go wrong for the Pies is entirely in their control. It's not like opponent or ground or anything like that. If you lose the qualifying final, you are going to have to travel. Collingwood are a very good traveling team, so I don't think either of those things are going to be a massive problem for them on paper. It's what version of the Pies are you getting? Is the defense going to stand up? Are they going to be able to score? And I'm just saying, you're a braver person than me if at this point in time, based on the exposed 2-5 finish to a season, that you could go, I got faith they'll turn it around. Now, if you're a Pies fan, you absolutely have every right to think that. I got no problem with that in the slightest. I'm not as forthcoming with the other non-Collingwood fans to go, yeah, they'll be fine. I don't know if they will be. Freo get a big bump here as they beat the Dogs. I know they're a top 8 team, but it's a non-finalist right now. What are you doing? At the time where they played them, the Dockers are 7-3 against top 8, well, top 9 teams, I suppose the other 8, which is a fantastic record. They have won big games this year on the road. They beat GWS. They beat Gold Coast. They beat the Bulldogs. This is a side that is comfortable travelling on the road. After seeing what they dished up against Brisbane, so the Contender, where they got punched in the mouth early with the bad goal kicking and they went into their shell and it threatened to do the same. Now, granted, the Bulldogs kicked more inaccurately than the Dockers did in that time. I understand that. But that second quarter, in a game where there was no tomorrow if they lost, they went chips in, they dominated. And I know the Dogs came back and it was a big fight and all that, but just they were fantastic. And I think that sets them in good stead. They've got some finals experience there. Some, it's not a lot, but they've got some with the 2 finals a few years ago. I do worry about the form of an Andrew Brayshaw. I do worry about their ability to rebound. I'm not saying that this is a perfect football team. What I am saying is I think their record this year and the challenges that they have beaten in eyes of media criticism, opposition fan skepticism, maybe even some Freo fan skepticism, deserves them a large slice of pie. They're going to get a home final. It looks like that is going to be against the Suns, I believe, which is going to be a good matchup for them. And then they will have to play the loser of Adelaide and Brisbane, which is going to be tough. I'm not going to lie to you, that is going to be tough. They're going to need some things to go their way. A chance? Yes. A big one? Well, you can read the number. Duh, obviously not. Optimistic about them? Absolutely. They're not going to finish top 4 like I had them at the start of the year, but it's working out a lot better than when I said Adelaide were going to be top 4 in 24. I was not wrong about that. I was just early. Speaking of the Crows, and as not frustrated, I suppose, but as perplexed that I am that the games against West Coast and North were a lot closer than they should have been, I can understand the whole we just want to get no injuries, no suspensions, 4 points and move the heck on because of how well we had played leading up to that. I get that. What I don't understand is why when Geelong smacked bad teams towards the end of the year, it was, look how easy the fixture is. And hey, I was a part of that too. Not in that voice, but I was a part of that too, of like what does the easy fixture on paper, how does that affect them coming into the final series? That is still a fair question for the Crows. Their clearance numbers right now are not great. They don't have a top 30 midfielder in clearance wins at the moment, which is, like I said, not great. Now, the sum of the parts is going to equal a really potent offense. With the likelihood of the Dogs dropping out, they will be the number 1 scoring team in the finals and one of the best backlines. I know that. I wonder if my third midfielder theory is also going to apply to the Crows. Because on paper, Dawson, Rankin, can a Jake Saligo or a James Peatling become a big finals performer? Time will tell, and as we know, Rankin is not even going to be there until grand final day if they go the long way. So they take a dip, they really do, but the double chance and a chance to see how they perform against the Lions is going to basically shape where they are at. Going with the Cats here and everything that I said about the easy lead-in, the Sydney game was a good tune-up for them. They didn't, again, put the foot on the throat of Richmond and buried them, which, again, I don't love, but I get the whole no suspension, no injuries, nothing like that. I understand. Where the Cats are just surviving and thriving right now is that their game is in really good order. They're so dependable It's just, I think the consistency of application, so many of Geelong's players frustratingly make the right decision. It's not the sexiest decision. It may not even be the most impactful decision from a micro point of view, but from a macro point of view, where it is a 23 game season and where it's going to come into, they're going to play at least 8 quarters of finals. The amount of times that they just do the right thing as an opposition fan is just, I hate it. And that's why you know someone's good. We know about the history. Absolutely we do. I think they're primed. I think they're ready to go. And I made a preseason video on why Geelong are underrated. And then a lot of people went, I don't think anyone's underrating Geelong. And I was like, okay, I feel like the media was at that time. I was seeing a lot of ladder predictors with Geelong just nowhere near where they're at right now. And go me. But I actually think that as the years gone on, they're actually getting talked about less and less, which to me is weird. Because Chris Scott, Bailey Smith, Jeremy Cameron, Patrick Dangerfield, I'd argue 4 of the 10 most discussed players in the comp. You know, Harley Reid, Nick Watson, Nick Dacos, and then, you know, whichever other 3 you want to put in there. Bont is definitely one of them, and I don't know. But yeah, kind of weird that Geelong are being underrated by the people who are paid to talk about the sport. I don't know why. They're the reigning premier. They're going to finish 4th, and it looks incredibly likely that they are just on the right path. Apart from goal kicking, they kicked the shit out of Hawthorn. I don't care what anyone says. The rebounding ability was great. The midfield battle, or especially around stoppage, was unbelievable. And if they had have kicked their expected score in the first quarter, they wouldn't have won by 10. They would have ended up winning by 40, which as a Hawthorn fan I would not have enjoyed, although I didn't really enjoy watching that game anyway. Their best is still better than everyone else's. And I think in my first or second Premiership high, I had them as number 1 as like a catch them if you can. I know I went away from that a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but it has reaffirmed to me. It does help, and I know it's not in the other team's control, but it does help that they had the Freo, Hawthorn, Quinella that's sort of kicked them into gear, because they had the really good win against Collingwood. They had the really down game against Gold Coast. They had another down game in there somewhere that I can't remember for the freaking life of me who they played. Was it Sydney? It was Sydney. So they've won their last 2. They're still playing enough young talent. They're going to welcome Lockie Neal back. The box seat is theirs, and they still very much are the hunted team in the competition. So what do you guys think? Comment below. Let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. You have yourselves a wonderful week, you absolute legends. I will see you next time.